Hey guys, how y'all doing? DeClue back here. Anyway, today I kind of wanted to do a little bit of a different video. I wanted to share with you just something that I recently thought of as someone interested in fountain pens. Um, Often one of the things you want to know is obviously what pens are the best, what nib sizes, things of that sort. You know, what inks do people like, and you just start wanting to know all the different combinations, which are of course like limitless. Um, So I wanted to find a way that I could make the best out of what I have and how I could keep track and compare over time what I think the best inks are in what pens, because I think that makes a big difference. You're going to get a different effect, especially on like shading inks, for instance, from a stub or a flex nib versus an extra fine. So an ink might be good in one pen and not so good in another, or in one nib in the same pen versus a replacement nib. And so I devised a way to do that. Oh, well, is it currently inked? Sort of. I did it two ways. So what I did was I picked up one of these Clairefontaine notebooks from Goulet Pens, and what I did was, in the front, I decided that I would write the name of the pen at the top. So that becomes my heading. And then underneath, I write the ink name with a couple of little marks, and I vary it up. I don't do the same thing every time, which would be more ideal. But what I do then is when I ink this pen up the next time with something different, I will just enter it right below it. That way, I can compare on the same page one ink from another with the same pen and nib. And that way I can kind of have a better idea of what I really like. Because I've noticed, like, I keep going back and forth, and I'm like, I was trying to do a currently inked thing, and actually I've done tons of them, like just with all sorts of different paper and stuff. I did, like, I wanted to compare ancient copper with autumn oak, both from Diamine, and shocked at actually how different they really are. I thought they'd be more similar. Love them both, but I try to find things that are similar in shade, and then like compare and contrast them. And so I would do that with, for instance, the Diamine Oxblood and Red Dragon, and I still can't decide which one I like better. Okay, they both look great by themselves. When I put them side by side, I tend to gravitate towards the Oxblood just because I think I end up finding the slight brighterness of the Red Dragon almost more offensive to me when it's next to the Oxblood for some reason. It's just a personal thing. But by itself, I think it's gorgeous. I've just written quite a bit of stuff with the, which one is that? Oh, the Red Dragon, and it just looks amazing by itself. The Oxblood almost doesn't even look red after a while. It almost looks like just a deep brown, but it's just, I still love it. It's gorgeous. And they both write great, and have in my loom, actually. And so, but it doesn't stop there. So as far as saying, so what? It's just currently inked with, not as well organized. So what's the big deal? Well, what I did was, that was the front. Then I worked from the back. Now I can also compare the ink. Diamine Red Dragon becomes the topic, and that pen becomes the sample. And then when I put that ink in a different pen, I will write the name of that pen with that ink below it. So now I can compare the same ink with in different pens, and not just different inks in the same pen. And so I get both, and I think that's important, And I've haven't done too many of those yet. I've kind of been doing just started this, so I'm kind of doing my first run through. So let me show you those real quick. You already saw the Faber-Castell loom, medium nib, with Red Dragon, Diamine. I also have my Visconti Rembrandt 1.5mm stub with diamine Matador, which is actually a lot better than I expected. I wanted to compare all these different reds that I like. I tend to like these deep reds, and I did spend 2 months in Spain once, so they kind of get me with the name Matador. So I thought I'd try it out, and it's a lot nicer than I expected. And so now I've got another red that I'm loving. Blue's my favorite color, and yet I'm finding the red inks are grabbing me the most. Well, and the purples, actually. So here we have the Lamy Safari Fine Nib. Sorry. With the Roshizuku Yama-budo, which, honestly, I know it's expensive, and you could probably find something comparable for cheaper, but I'll tell you what, that thing looks great sitting on my desk, and it looks fantastic on paper. So I highly recommend it. It might be my favorite ink right now, although I have a lot of favorite inks. I'm really getting into the whole ink thing. Here, and this is a really good example, by the way. I haven't written it out yet, but this is the Jinhao X450 with a Goulet broad nib that I put in it, and De Atramentis Aubergine. It is literally probably the smoothest writer I have. I am completely blown away at how smoothly this writes, this combination. And when you think that the Jinhao is under $10 itself, the Goulet nib is only $15. It's amazing. It's probably, well, other than like Pilot Varsity or something, it's like one of the cheapest pens I have, and yet it literally is the smoothest. I mean, when I write with it, especially on Clairefontaine, oh man, I don't even know how to, I mean, everyone says buttery smooth, I know, but it literally is just so smooth across the page. It's like, oh, it's pretty amazing. You just have to try it to see what I mean. I've got my Noodler's Nib Creeper Flex in the Diamine Autumn Oak, and y'all can debate diamine, diamine. I've heard experts say both, so I'm not going to be bold enough to say that I know exactly which one it is. But either way, great ink company. I love their inks. I got their sample from Goulet. They're best sellers from Diamine, and it was a great way to try a bunch of stuff out. And oh man, I wish I could just buy bottles of them all, but I'd never use them all, and I am on a budget. Anyway, so going the other way again, the Red Dragon with the Faber-Castell loom. I guess these will all kind of be the same. So right now it's not as interesting to show you, but as I change these out and use more inks, I will then show you those. And what you can do is tell me what you want to see next. And to do that, I will now share with you some of the options I have that you can choose from. So, because I like Oxblood so much, and it just happens to share the same name, and I also like the color of it, I also have one of those Oxblood cases that I thought I had right next. Oh, here it is. Yeah. The Hirologio, which I got also from Goulet. It's the, I don't have a huge collection, so this is the 12 pen holder. And this isn't all of my pens. I've also got a bunch of the Pilot Varsities and stuff. But these are some of my better pens. So I've got my Visconti Dark Forest Rembrandt. Or Rembrandt Dark Forest, alright. My Lamy Safari Charcoal, which is a fine nib, which I just kind of assumed that I would prefer medium and broader nibs, because smoother, for no other reason. The problem I have is that even though I tend to write fast, I also tend to write really small, or at least I used to. Fountain pens have corrected that a bit. The flow has opened up my writing, and I'm more intentional about my writing. But I'll tell you what, this fine nib is fantastic. This has become a pen that I turn to time and again, and I know there's a lot of debate about this pen, but I really do love this, and I will be doing a more full review of it at some point. I know there's many of them out there, but I like it, so I have to. It's just how it works. Anyway, it's just wonderful. I used this with Yama-budo the day I got my Yama-budo in. Literally, like, I inked it up right after I got it in the mail, and then went to go tutor math, and used this to write out problems for my student to solve. And it was pretty awesome, I'm not gonna lie. And the fine is great because it can also be used on junkier paper, although I did use Clairefontaine. I like Clairefontaine. Anyway, and this is the Noodlers that I already did a review of. This is the pen I bought by accident, thinking I was getting a great deal on an Ahab because I didn't read carefully before I hit order. My Faber-Castell loom. This I have to share with you. This was a really big disappointment. Not because there's anything wrong with the brand or the model, but I waited a week for free shipping, getting a steal on this pen. No pun intended. It's that special edition Lamy 2000. What is it? Dark amber or black amber, I think. Black amber. And I got a medium nib on it just because they were selling it at such a discount. It was like insane. And I was like, I've got to get this. But there's one little problem. The nib arrived completely bent. When I opened the box, the pen and the cap were completely separate out of their holders that are supposed to keep them in place. And this nib was just bent. And I was like, is this something I'm not aware of on the 2000? I was looking at pictures. I'm like, well, it kind of is bent, but not nearly as much. And no, it's bent. So I called Lamy USA, where I bought it. And they're going to send a replacement, and then I'm just going to ship this one back. And it does come with a bottle of Lamy ink as well. I think it's the Lamy Blue, if I'm not mistaken. Could be Lamy Blue Black, I don't know. I think it's blue, though. Haven't had a chance to use it yet. Literally just, this happened yesterday. Oh, but there is another pen that I have that I have not seen anything on, and so I do plan on doing a review of this. And now it is well, not technically the first fountain pen I had, but one of the more nicer fountain pens, or more costly, let's say. Not necessarily nicer, but more costly. And I got it for a couple of reasons. One, because it was on discount as well. But also because I used to live in Connecticut. I lived in Groton, and then I lived in Gales Ferry, which is sort of near Ledyard. And one of the towns nearby was Waterford. And because of Waterford Crystal, which of course is from Ireland, not Connecticut, as far as I know, they actually had a mall called the Crystal Mall that I remember going to as a child. And I lived there when I was, 5 until I was 12. So I just have fond memories of that. And I saw this, and I'm also a quarter Irish, even though I don't look it. Well, it's a Waterford by the same company that makes the Crystal. And it's a Beaumont. I got it in a medium nib. If you can see that. And it's a gold nib. And it was under $90. So I had to get it. And the nib's actually made in Germany. So I don't know if it's Jovo or what. I'm not sure. I guess a little bit out of alignment now. Oops. And it's with Sapphire is the ink. And I got it from Colorado Pen. and it just came in a bottle with a generic label saying Colorado Pen Sapphire. I don't know if they make their own there or someone makes it for them or they buy it from someone and restock it with their name on it. I'm not sure, but that's what it is. So it's Sapphire, Colorado Pen Sapphire. I'm not sure really what that means. Maybe someone from their group can let us know and explain how that works. If it is their own ink, that's pretty great. I'm just kind of surprised if that's the case, but you know, it's entirely possible. So anyway, those are some of the pens that I have, and then I've got a bunch of different inks, you know, not just the Yama-budo, but I've got the Oxblood and the Red Dragon, and Matador, and oh, Sherwood Green, by the way, which I put in my Visconti, which was the first thing I inked up my Visconti with when I got it, because you know, it's the Dark Forest, which is a green, and so I figured the Sugar Green would go great with it. So, oh my gosh, and I wrote for like hours with this thing, and this is just yeah, I know, quote Taco Bell Quelle from German and Abend. I'm sorry, I don't want to work with German, so I tend to just randomly write German words. And I studied at Don Quixote Escuela por Extranjeros in Madrid before they got bought out, and they do spell it with a J there. I don't know why, but Don Quixote, it was a language school for me to practice Spanish, and then before I studied German, which made it almost impossible for me to speak Spanish with any sort of fluency anymore. Anyway, I just wanted to share that and get your feedback on what you would like to see more of. If you'd like a different angle, more variety of angles in my videos, I am limited. I'm not a technical guy. I don't have a lot of equipment, but obviously I have a lot of views. And this is just one. I do plan on expanding this channel. I'd like to do things in watches. You know, I've got my Orient Mako 2, not the USA version. You can tell by the dial. It's got the numbers instead of like the little hash marks. Anyway, love the watch. It runs a little fast. Just as a little cue. My Citizen, I'll show you that sometime. It's an Eco Drive Corso watch, but in gold and black dial, but with brown leather strap. That thing, seriously, I lost it by leaving it in a coat pocket and not realizing it for days. And it's, you know, solar powered, okay? And that thing kept time within like 2 seconds after like a week. I mean, I was just completely amazed. Anyway, that's a digression. I apologize. This is supposed to be about fountain pens and ink. Anyway, but the idea is that I want to do other things. Theology, philosophy, politics, life lessons. I've recently started writing a short story, and I'm thinking about doing a series of them on called like the other side of the story, or 2 sides to every story. And the idea would be that each short story would actually have 2 sides. So you'd get one story with a very particular slant to it, and then there would be ellipses, and then the other side, and then I'd have the same situation but from a different perspective, to kind of have that idea of recognizing that things are more complex than they often seem. So let me know like what sort of things you'd like me to talk about, review, what you're interested in. I'm not an expert on a lot of these things other than maybe theology, and I do tutor math, and I've thought about doing that too, like doing an ACT test prep video series as well. Like I just have all these things I want to do. I'm just always wanting to create, and teach is my favorite thing to do. And obviously, as you can tell, talk. So anyway, just let me know what you guys might like, and sorry that I keep looking at the wrong